I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but Studio Series Bumblebee kind of blows, like seriously blows. Design-wise, he does get the look down. This looks like Bumblebee. Something is a little off with his chest. For me, it just seems he seems a little like pigeon-chested, like more than usual. He's got like kind of, I want to say, overly wide hips, and the ratio from hip, waist to chest just seems like it's way too squat. I don't know if that's because they were trying to keep him down to a certain size scale, but it just feels too squished in. And then that's not the worst of the problems when we look at the overall stuff. I mean, technically speaking, I really hate that he has little yellow pieces sticking out here at his joints. I feel like that is kind of ugly. And a lot of the figures that I've come across that aren't the Studio Series don't have that issue. They have gray parts that match in with the gray. But then he doesn't even have like a consistent gray or silver tone. It's kind of, if you can see up here, more of a gunmetal gray, which then turns into a, let me see if I can readjust the lights, get a little better look here. There we go. It kind of turns into a kind of an almost black color down here that's not even painted, it's just the base color of the plastic. So we've got that going on there. Face detail, I want to say, is pretty okay. It's a little ugly, but to be fair, I think the Michael Bay Bumblebee is supposed to be a little ugly. But then design-wise as well, I feel like he has way too much clear plastic on him, which isn't always a problem if you store them right or if you never come across any issues with that. On this guy specifically, though, he does have a weak door hinge here that's it's cracked, and it's been tried to be super glued back, and I don't know if you can see there, it's all wobbly because of that. And to be fair, the other side's not all that stable itself. So that's pretty crappy. Just overall design there, I feel like there's way too much clear plastic, which we all know is just absolutely damning to a figure. Like this piece here, it's got the windshield, and then it's got the hood, and then it's got these doors with the windows, the whole door, the little attachment pieces on the side there, and then even his thighs have a little bit of clear plastic too. It's a lot of clear plastic rocking there. It's a little too much in my opinion. When it comes to things like kibble management, having all of his backpacks tucked away, that's actually a positive. I will say that's, as far as most Bumblebees go, it's pretty clean. Which, congrats for that. And then accessory, he does get this little blaster, which I kind of would prefer if they went for a gimmick where it, like, the arm switched around or something. I know they commonly have it where the arm breaks in the center and then you put on a different piece. But I kind of like the idea where it still transforms with the figure. They've done that with a few, but I don't know if they've done that with Studio Series. It's not commonly done with the more expensive figures for some reason, even though you'd think the tooling would be there for it. So as for deluxe Studio Series, these guys tend originally to fetch around $25, but they go for probably like twice that much after the original run is done. And I just feel like that's way too much for a figure that's pretty mid. The figure that I actually prefer of the OG Bumblebee is the Dark of the Moon action figure. This one's actually really fun. I feel like his design is pretty on the point. I don't know how accurate his face is, but it's a lot cooler and kind of cuter looking, which kind of fits Bumblebee better. It almost has like a skeletal look to it too, which I think is both like cutesy and kind of awesome. So I feel like that works better too. So as for accuracy, maybe not so much. But then when it comes to the arms, it doesn't have that yellow breaking up in the center here, so that's cool. He does have discolored hands compared to the rest of them. I'm not sure why, maybe that's just on mine or something, but he has black hands versus the gray. But other than that, all the colors are pretty consistent. I do wish he had more paint variation, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of really cool action figure design going on here. So we have, proportion-wise, he has this kind of heroic, thin, longer waist with a big, bulky up top. And it doesn't look like a pigeon chest so much as it looks like a big, muscular, almost like pectoral chest. Like, I feel like that works a lot better for an action figure. And then when it comes to the rest of the proportions on him, he's got kind of arguably too long arms, but still I feel like that is you get a lot more range with the articulation, which when it comes to articulation, I feel like this one, even I think he has more articulation, and I think he pulls it off a lot better. Even if it's not as much articulation, it definitely, when you're handling him, feels like he's more articulated. We'll take a look at that in a second, but yeah, detail-wise, I kind of love this Bumblebee. And then when it comes to the clear plastic management, they do a lot better. So there's not a lot of clear plastic everywhere. This one actually has, what was it? He has the little cage on the side there because he's Dark the Moon. So this is the little alternate design for that later movie. And then for the clear plastic, you can see it actually separates. The hood part is a separate plastic that's screwed in to the plastic that is clear. And because of that, if this breaks, you can technically unscrew it and swap it out with a different piece, which is nice. That's not bad. There's all sorts of repairing options here. We even have pins, so you can just pop out the pin for repairs. His kibble management, however, is not as good, and it's a little more complicated to get tucked away. Let me see. Boom. Go fast forward so I don't look like an idiot. Yeah, so kibble management is not as great on him. He does have a little bit of a backpack hanging on here, but that aside, I feel like everything else is managed pretty well on him. So let's take a look at that articulation real quick. On this one, we get a lot of head movement. So on a ball joint, so you get full 360. You get a fair amount down, fair amount up, well, a little bit up, not a fair amount. A little bit of head rocker, you know. And then shoulders, we get a ball joint, so that's a lot. We also get this extra hinge so you can move up or down at the shoulder, which kind of works more for displaying. Like if you want to have them with bigger, bulkier looking shoulders, you can kind of pull that off. I kind of like the look of that versus you can pop it down and make them look a little more slim. Then you also have his elbows. They have full rotation. They have a hinge for an elbow bend that goes way up, look at that, and then way back down. Then we have wrist articulation, which doesn't have a spin, but it does have an inward and outward motion, which is kind of interesting. It feels like if you do that, you should be able to have some sort of a, let's get some focus in here. You should be able to have some attachment that gives him this sort of arm cannon. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the weapon that came with him, but it was just a big obnoxious thing. But I find that if you grab some mech tech weapons and port them in here, it looks just as well as it can. It's not so bad. And honestly, I think, let me steal this guy's cannon and see if that would port in. I haven't done this before, so if it's stupid, I'll just cut it out. Oh. Yeah, so you could even peg in someone else's toy, because it's a someone else's accessory, because it's a 5mm port. And look at that, you've got a nice hand cannon. And look, tuck this away. I'm kind of digging that. I didn't even think about that. Hey, you know what? Every now and then, stop clock is right, what, twice a day? That's probably less for me, but that's pretty cool. So let's pop that off, and then look back at the articulation. So then at his wrists, beyond the wrist, you also have the hand, which does articulate a little open and close, so you can put stuff in the hand and then close it on it. It doesn't open much, though. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's just a little squeak out, squeak in. And then at the legs, he does have a ball-jointed hip, so we get a lot out, a lot back, a lot out to the side. You can basically get some splits going on there. That's pretty good. He does also have waist articulation, so a full 360. And then beyond the waist, we also have, after the hips here, we also have a rotation under the hip joint, ball joint. And then we also have the knee bend. The knee bend doesn't go so far, but it goes pretty far. I feel like, let's see, if we scoot this around, we can go a little further maybe. Not necessarily, but fair amount of articulation. That's not bad. Let's tuck this back away. Get that out the way. Where does that go? Let's toss that up there, yeah. I wonder, did I have that wrong the whole time? Who cares? They'll complain in the comments. And then at his ankles, unfortunately we don't get a rocker pivot, because this is before they did the sort of big wide stance leg posing. We do get a really good kind of double, let's see, double articulation, where this part here can move forward and back, and then back here it doesn't move forward at all, but it does move backward a little more. So depending on what you need, you can articulate quite a cool pose out of that. Let's see, let me get there. Yeah, so if you need them to get kind of a more wide-legged pose, it is possible. So then taking a look at the other fella here. Now here's Bumbleebee, as I shall call him. You know, the articulation is actually pretty hindered. So his neck here, it's stuck right there because he has this big protrusion. So it can't really look anywhere past, like, over his shoulder here. And then up, very little, down, basically not at all down. And then at the shoulders, he does have an outward hinge, and then it's restricted by the doors here, which it doesn't easily swing back. I don't think, yeah, so where the wheels are, those don't go back any further, so he's constantly going to be colliding with the wheels. So the shoulders are more limited than on the other guy, but he can do a little bit of that, a little bit of this, not a full 360 of anything there. He does have a ball joint, which I wish they utilized ball joints more with these figures, at his elbow, so we can get a full 360. It's a little imposed because of the limited shoulders. And then at the wrists, there's actually no articulation at the wrists, which I was shocked at. I assumed there would be before I really looked, but nope, no articulation there. At the waist, we get, yeah, there's a little bit. So it turns like just slightly at the waist. Nothing amazing there. And then at the hips, we do get an outward kind of ball joint going here, so he can get some crazy pose. Look at that, ball joints do rock. We do like ball joints up in this house. And then at his knees, he does have a decent bend, probably about equal to the other guy's bend. It's all, can we de-transform maybe a little? And even still, that's a pretty good maybe 90-degree angle there, so that's pretty good. And then at the ankles, there is improvement over the other guy, although I feel like the design of the feet are a little funked because of it. Funked, we'll say. It's kind of got a rocker pivot, but it's like way up there. So we get this weird articulation point, which, damn, door came off. While doing that, you know, he looks like very unnatural. I feel like he's got like rickets or something. He's gonna be like walking into the hospital like, dear Lord, this don't look good. Very unfortunate. Yeah, I feel like that mucks up the leg design too. It doesn't lock in all that well. I wish they just went with maybe a ball joint. I don't know if that would have been possible, but a ball joint is always preferred. And then his feet do swing down so that we get that articulation too. So definitely he does not stand up in the articulation portion. So I feel like design-wise and articulation, he just kind of falls short. Plus his door fell off while trying to articulate him. That's never good. However, that is the cracked-ass one, so. I'm not really going to look at the transformations because I don't feel like the car mode's going to make a difference. I just feel like I got my point across that this is a much better action figure than this one. If it's a better transformer, like if this one has a better car mode at the end of the day, I don't really care as much because normally I have them displayed like this, not in the car mode. The car mode is nice to have, but as long as it's a passable car, it's usually good enough for me. And I feel like action figure-wise, the Dark of the Moon one just is such a more fun action figure. The STuDiO series doesn't even work as like a guy to set on a shelf. I feel like he's pretty crap. If I were to recommend for you to get one of these, obviously I would say get the original deluxe ones. Better tooling, even for the price range, even current day price ranges, the tooling's better, the articulation better, the option for accessories would be better. The things you can port in here are going to be way more fun than whatever you port in here. I don't know. Just, I feel like this guy's the winner. Tell me what you guys think. Maybe I'm stupid. Who knows? Let me know.